So guys, welcome to the simulation inside the simulation. I am Tooodamngolden, your VR Voyager, and today we are back with another countdown video because Breachers is on an absolute tear in VR land, so I thought, what better time than now to take a look at the best first-person shooters currently available for VR enthusiasts, hence the title. You know what you're here for. So, kicking things off at number 5 is the team-based multiplayer Caveman Studio-produced shooter Contractors, which offers a very Call of Duty-ish vibe to the VR community and is a title that I find balances the realism of all things gun handling, recoil, and general weapon mechanics with the fun-to-play, more arcade-like style of gameplay that is absolutely a delight. For gamers looking for a tactical approach to a VR first-person shooter, this is not the title for you, as this is a very heavily Call of Duty-inspired game that leans into quick-paced firefights with relatively quick respawn timers to keep players jumping back into the action time and time again. Where Contractors shines is gunplay, and more specifically the actual guns themselves, as Contractors offers a huge arsenal of weapons to pick from. Ranging from classic World War II M16 to modern SCARs, this title has a little bit of everything, and you will most certainly find something that is up your alley. Now, unlike a lot of VR games at the moment, Contractors is an absolute hub of content.
Nasty motherfucker.
With a barrage of game modes ranging from single-player missions to co-op excursions and a solid variety of multiplayer options being available, and of course you can't mention Contractors without mentioning the mods. Guys, the modding community has gone absolutely crazy with this one, with players being able to live out their childhood Jedi fantasies with a fantastic Battlefront 2 mod, or for those gamers of a certain age like myself, we can take a blast from the past with a fantastic Team Fortress 2 mod, and of course we couldn't mention mods in Call of Duty VR without mentioning, well, the stellar Call of Duty mods that put the player right into some of the Call of Duty franchise's most iconic venues. Contractors is a mod lover's heaven, and that combined with a plethora of content as well as very responsive gameplay mechanics have Contractors locked in at number 5 on today's countdown. And number 4 today is a title that I'm sure every VR enthusiast has at least heard of, as it was one of VR's most hyped titles ever. I'm talking of course about Bone Lab, the follow-up entry to Stress Level 0's smash hit Boneworks, and this will easily be the most divisive entry on today's countdown, as at the time of the release of this game, it received pretty mixed reviews from the community at large, with the biggest critique being that it felt a bit unfinished and more of a technical demo as opposed to a full-fledged game. However, I would counter that for players that enjoyed Boneworks, that this sequel serves as an improvement across the board. While not the central focus of this VR physics masterclass, the gun mechanics in this title are stellar and present a very clear upgrade to its predecessor, and honestly, it's some of the best feeling gunplay that you will find in VR, with a particular focus being placed on the tracking of two-handed weapons being clear, as Bone Lab has done an amazing job in this regard, which in turn allows for players to easily keep track of hand placement, which we all know isn't always the easiest thing to do in VR. Now, Bone Lab isn't a traditional first-person shooter by any means, however, it is an absolute treat. I would be remiss though if I did not mention the fact that this isn't really a recommended title for those of you just getting your VR legs, as even veteran players have experienced motion sickness with this physics fairground. I just wanted to throw this disclaimer out there for you guys. But nonetheless, if you're looking for a title that truly incorporates the feel of gun handling to the max, Bone Lab may be the game that you're looking for, as Bone Lab is an excellent shooter and is secure at number 4 on today's countdown. So, full disclosure, the number 3 entry on today's countdown is actually 2 games in one, as the Resident Evil series has shown us the magic that can be had with bringing flat games to VR, as both Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 7 are not only 2 of the best shooters that have graced VR headsets, but 2 of the best VR games outright. These titles seem to do everything right when it comes to gunplay, as firing, ejecting magazines, and reloading all flow beautifully and feel very natural to accomplish. Of course, with these games being ports of an already beloved and established franchise, many gamers will be familiar with their plots and storylines, but the added level of immersion that VR brings to these games is absolutely indescribable. The visceral gore and pure rawness that Resident Evil 7 provides is truly unmatched, as those up close and personal action sequences shine in VR, making every encounter truly a spectacle to behold. But we're here to talk about gunplay, and I'm happy to report that both Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 7 shine in this regard, with these titles possessing the absolute best shotgun handling available for VR, with the hand placement, reloading, and recoil all blending together to create one of my personal favorite moments in all of VR, firing a powerful shotgun and scoring a devastating one-shot kill. Pistols and rifles feel good in the hand as well and do a pretty remarkable job of tracking with both the hands and the headsets themselves. And particularly in Resident Evil 4, I feel that the weapon holstering locations track very well, which we all know isn't always as simple as it sounds with VR. And while pretty solid itself, the more up close and personal nature of Resident Evil 7 provided me just a tad bit more wonkiness in this regard, but nothing game breaking by any means. On their own as flat games, both of these titles are already amazing, and with their addition to the virtual reality gaming space, we get an extremely intimate experience that ramps up the intensity, provided 1,000 times over, and has them not only locked in at number 3 on today's countdown, but also very high up on the best VR games list overall. So the number 2 game on today's countdown, HalfLife Alex, is in a weird position of probably being VR's best game, but also its second best shooter, due simply to the overall lack of weapon variety. Now, HalfLife Alex is a fantastic title that brings the full-scale environmental feel, and a title that VR enthusiasts are desperately longing for. However, addressing the elephant in the room, HalfLife Alex only has 3 guns: a pistol, a shotgun, and a combine SMG. But with the game lacks in variety, it more than makes up for with a surprisingly robust weapon customization system and some of the most seamless gun tracking that VR has to offer. Clearly building off the foundation provided by the critically acclaimed VR sandbox shooter Boneworks, the physics in this title are almost unmatched, which leads to some pretty intense firefights and allows for a very smooth and fluent experience with this game's guns. Quickly switching between targets feels very natural in terms of motion, and the sound effects surrounding the gunfire in HalfLife Alex are superb to say the least. And overall, the guns, however few there are may be, are just fun as hell to use, with a fantastic reloading system to boot. The only knocks for me personally with regards to the gunplay in HalfLife Alex are firstly the lack of guns, as previously stated, as it would have been a blast to get my hands on the gravity gun or pulse rifle from Half-Life 2, but more importantly to me, the fact that your gun is not holstered on your person and the need to use a clunky menu to switch weapons does break some of that immersion for me. However, all in all, HalfLife Alex is an amazing VR experience with buttery smooth gunplay, and for that reason, combined with beautiful graphics as well as a full-scale narrative-driven storyline, HalfLife Alex is locked in at number 2 on today's countdown. Now, before we jump to the number 1 game today, let's take this opportunity to highlight a few honorable mentions that did not make today's countdown. So for those of you who have already been immersed in the world of VR, the number 1 game on today's countdown, Breachers, should come as absolutely no surprise, as this Rainbow Six Siege Cross CSGO VR hybrid is a tactical masterpiece with the absolute smoothest gunplay in all of VR. Releasing on April 13th of this year, Breachers is a team-based 5v5 tactical shooter where players will either be looking to disarm or defend 2 planted bombs using an EMP held by a singular player, and as stated before, the gunplay in this title is absolutely top-notch, sporting a nice array of guns from pistols to SMGs, shotguns, and of course multiple assault rifles. Now, what makes Breachers shine above the rest of VR's various shooters is the buttery smooth fluidity of motion when handling these weapons, as it is obvious that the guys over at Triangle Factory put the bulk of their time in this one into optimization, and more specifically the optimization of the weapons. This game strikes a nice balance between realism and ease of accessibility, which allows for those up close and personal firefights to feel tense yet thrilling, as Triangle Factory traded in certain mechanics such as cocking the gun back after reloading in favor of a more streamlined method. Now, immersion purists may argue that this takes away from the experience, but I personally feel that given you still have to eject and insert new magazines, that this streamlined method aids in keeping the pacing of this title at very enjoyable levels. Now, Much like a large portion of VR experiences, viewing them in a video of this nature does not truly capture the magic and the immersion, and it doesn't really showcase the fluidity and motion of the weapon handling, but make absolutely no mistake, Breachers has the best gunplay that VR has to offer and is not only the best multiplayer VR shooter, period, but it is also firmly locked in as VR's best overall shooting experience and #1 on today's countdown. Alright guys, so that just about wraps up today's video. It is really good to be back. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you did enjoy today's video. New video essays coming at you guys relatively soon. I do like to take my time and make sure that they're high quality for you guys, or at least the best that I can do, right? So I do appreciate you guys being patient with me, sticking around here as we continue to build this little community of ours. So guys, as always, I am Tooodamngolden, your VR Voyager, and thanks for joining me in the simulation inside the simulation.